All right, yeah, that'll work. Okay, yeah, I'll be back at the shop in about 15 minutes. Yeah, we'll chat in a bit. All right, thanks, bye-bye. That was our client. He wants to tell us the full story, or more to the story, on the Hurricane bike. What happened? Well, he said we're gonna talk about it. He's gonna call in about 30 minutes when we get back to the shop. We'll get it figured out with him. Welcome back to Boxer Moto, and thank you for joining us in part 2 of Tampa Project. Last week in part 1, we had to tear the bike completely down to bare bones, get the frame cleaned up, and get all the fabrication done before it could go off to our powder coater. In this segment, we're getting the engine and the drivetrain completely tore down, inspected, and cleaned up before it can go and get Cerakoted. We also have to get our smaller parts cleaned up and sandblasted so they can go to powder coat right here in the shop. But before that happens, let's see what news our client has for us after he watched part 1 of his series.
Story short, it took almost, I didn't get the bike until the summer of 2022. So it took like a year and a half. When I get the bike, I literally get it, I'm all excited, it looks great. I get on it for the first ride and I ride it down the street and oil just pours out of the bottom of it.
Oh,
so I'm like,
man.
What the? You know, a lot of people don't work on old BMW, so I found a place in Port City, which is a place here in Tampa, and I take it to them. And you know, they have this great mechanic there, and I can send you videos of basically, but basically what we found out was he never rebuilt the engine. He basically just slapped a bunch of paint on it. So it was a back and forth battle with this guy, which I never got my money back. I ended up paying another, I want to say, $8,000 to get the bike running. Finally got the bike running, and then a month after I got the bike running, it got hit by the hurricane and wiped out. So that's kind of the whole, the whole thing. So a lot of that bike is a lot of bad memories. I think it was like $12,000 over what I originally said I was going to pay for. So as much as I loved that bike, it was kind of almost like God was telling me, you know what, let's get rid of this thing. You know, I never actually rode the bike except for that last month. And then of course, the hurricane hit. So I never really got a chance to really enjoy it.
Yeah.
There was never really any enjoyment from it. Every time I got on it, it just reminded me of, you know, being screwed over and all the hassles. You know, just, I mean, when I watched the videos, like you guys, you know, said, oh, I want to keep the color. I think I want to change it a little bit. I think I want this just to be a whole new
thing.
I still love the blue and stuff like that, but maybe we switch it up a little bit. And it's a bigger bike too, which is going to be better for me too. So
all in all, in summary, I totally understand where he's coming from. I would feel the same way personally if it was my project. So not a whole lot of changes need to happen. We are going to try to make it completely different from what the old bike was, maybe to bring some new memories in and a happier experience with Boxer Moto. With that being said, let's jump right into the teardown of the engine and the drivetrain, and let's get this ball rolling. Now that we've got the engine secured in a teardown stand, it's time to dive into some open heart surgery. This is where every turn of the wrench tells a story. We're about to crack open decades of history, and with each removed bolt, we'll uncover clues about the life this engine led. We'll be on the lookout for any surprises. Every motor holds a few secrets. It's time to reveal them. I'm going after all the electronics first. I want to get all this old wiring out. Dial board will come out first. Want to get everything under this timing cover out. Got to remove the rotor, but it's double threaded. Now, we got to get this popped off, and it requires a special tool. We're going to thread in this tool we made to pop off this rotor. So we'll push it in and just keep tightening, and this will pop out. Just like that. We got all the components off this front timing cover. Now, actually, I want to remove the front timing cover. There's a ton of Allens holding it in. We're gonna zip through and get them all out now. The bigger question I want to know is what's behind this cover. I want to inspect the chain. And this front timing cover is an interference fit, so you gotta heat it up a little bit before you can pop it off. There you can see the timing chain, the timing system. This is the heartbeat of any engine. Look at that. This chain was stretched. And this chain was replaced once before, at least once before. So we're gonna get all this pulled out, get all that timing chain removed and ready for replacement. Surprise number one. It's a tight cylinder. The cylinder seems to be in pretty good shape. With the left side cylinder removed, a couple surprises, just a little bit of water in the cylinder, not uncommon, but still a little concerning. Engine studs pulled off. We're gonna jump over here to the right cylinder and do the same thing. How many nightmares do you have removing engine stud bolts?
Not many. I love it.
You enjoy it?
Yeah.
You enjoy removing engine stud bolts?
Yep.
Why?
Very time consuming. It's necessary.
And now that we got both left and right cylinders removed from the engine block, we have to jump here to the rear side of the engine and pull this clutch, flywheel, and oil pump off so that we can get the crankshaft pulled out from the front. With the engine finally tore down, we can move on to the next step. We got to get the engine block, the valve bodies, the cylinders, and all the other engine components into the parts washer so they can be scrubbed clean and looking as good as new before they go off to Cerakote. And now that the engine is fully tore down, it's time to take a look at the gearbox and the final drive. But first, let's pop this engine in the parts cleaner. A real sweet opportunity to show you why it's so important to go into every little area of these bikes. So this is the gearbox, and a common error or common issue on some of these gearboxes is the transmission won't engage, and you actually have to break into this thing to see what's going on. And as soon as I did, I discovered that the shift cam spring snapped. Found a piece of it in the bottom of the case here. This gearbox was not functioning properly. So it's a good thing we got in here. We got to pull the shift cam assembly out and replace either the spring or the whole assembly, and then get everything out and get the rest of this cleaned up. All right, with all the shafts and gears out of the gearbox, we got the case and the parts washer, getting rid of all that old grime and further inspection. Once everything's looking good on this guy, he'll be ready to go off to Cerakote as well. Now with the engine and the gearbox all cleaned up, Jeff's going to get the rest of the engine components into the parts cleaner so we can finish all these up and get these off into the sandblasting cabinet. With a lot of these donor bikes that we find, they haven't been in use or been running for quite some time. Owners will ride them until they stop working, and because of this, these bikes we buy are usually caked with baked on grease and oil. In the past, a big challenge was getting this grime removed 100%. A process we found that works the best, while not killing our bodies in the process, is to introduce other types of oily detergents to help break down the tougher baked on grease. I know it may seem counterproductive to add an oil to an already oily part, but if the oil detergent is a known detergent, in this case diesel, it is much easier to remove diesel from the part after the heavy grime is gone. Simple degreasers and Dawn dish soap are great for removing light grease and oil. Let's get these parts into the oven to outgas for an hour at 400 degrees and then into the sandblasting cabinet. Then we can finally get some powder coat going. Jeff did a great job getting all these parts sandblasted. We got a nice profile on them now, a nice texture to each part that's going to go off to be powder coated. And that profile is super important for powder coat, and I'm going to show you why. Let's take a look at some cross sections here, the difference between sanding and sandblasting. Sanding on a base metal or a base material is going to give you slight grooves. That's going to be enough adhesion for your primers or your base coats to fill in, lock into these little grooves, these mild sanding marks, and be plenty of adhesion for paint. Now over here with sandblasting or for powder coat, sandblasting is going to put a much more aggressive profile to the base metal. So what happens is now when you put your powder coat down, it is going to fill in all these peaks and valleys, these aggressive peaks and valleys, and it is going to offer a much stronger bond to the base metal or to the parent metal than a light scuff would. And that is because powder coat is not paint. Powder coat is actually a plastic that'll melt and flow down into these channels, so that extra adhesion is required. So I hope that makes a little bit more sense on why you would sandblast versus why you would just sand something traditionally. Tomorrow morning, we're gonna start the day off by getting all these hung in the powder coating booth, start putting some powder coat down, and showing you guys what that looks like in the end. It is a new day, and it is powder coating day. They are pristine, clean, and ready to go into the powder coating booth. Let's take you guys in there now and show you what that looks like. We're gonna get all these little parts hung on our rack here, and the way powder coat works is we are going to charge each individual part, and the powder that comes out of the gun will have the opposite charge, causing a static cling to the part. So you get even coating all around 360 each part. 30 minutes, huh? Now we'll have some cookies.
That's it.
I know I told you guys last week we'd be having a new powder coat oven this week. It has not showed up yet, so we're still stuck in the 40s with this old electric range. So I gave him a ring, and I guess next Wednesday, the new powder coating oven should be here, which I'm pretty stoked for that. We'll be able to do bigger stuff like wheels and other things that we're not able to get into our small powder coating oven. So that'll add a lot to the shop. All right, that about wraps it up for part 2. Guys, thanks for sticking around for it. We got a lot done in this segment. We got all the engine cleaning done, all the powder coating done. The powder coating parts are on the shelf, ready to be installed. Hopefully on the next installment, we're gonna have a frame back from powder coat. We're gonna drop the engine in that after that gets painted, and we're gonna be painting some tanks. I'm sure a ton more than just that. All happening in next episode, part 3, coming soon.